Hello there and welcome to the Richie Allen television show in association with davidike.com and beyondvision.tv for the week ending Friday, February the 12th, 2016. Hope you're well, hope you've had a brilliant week and you're looking forward to the weekend. As usual on this programme, we're going to have a kind of a summary look back over some of the big news stories during the week, and with my great friend and colleague Hayden Hewitt joining in, we will express opinions, I think, on some of these stories, opinions that are not expressed through or on the commercial media. That's what the programme is all about. So today we're going to talk about Adam Osborne, the brother of George Osborne. He's in hot water this week. That's a real mainstream media term. He's in more than hot water. We'll talk about the re-emergence of Yanis Varoufakis, who looks more and more like Herman Munster the more I see him on television. That's cheap, that. There's no need for that, you see, but I'm going to go there anyway. We'll talk about Varoufakis. What else will we talk about? We will talk about the Metropolitan Police saying that it needs to investigate how it investigates historic child sex abuse allegations and much more besides. But before we do, we're going to have a quick look at a couple of stories making the news today. You know, when we record the programme, it's Friday, of course, when we do that. So a couple of big stories today. World powers have agreed to seek a nationwide cessation of hostilities in Syria, as you can see there, to begin in a week's time, a week from now, after talks in Munich, Germany. The halt will not apply to the battle against the jihadist groups Islamic State and the Al-Nusra Front. The 17-member International Syria Support Group also agreed to accelerate and expand aid deliveries. That's controversial. Tell you why in a second. The announcement comes as the Syrian army, backed by Russian airstrikes, advances in Aleppo province. And that's exactly why they want a cessation of hostilities, because the Russians, love them or hate them, and of course they're getting a pass in some sections of the independent media. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute, maybe. The Russians have advanced in the Aleppo province. The move threatens to encircle tens of thousands of civilians in rebel-held parts of the major city of Aleppo. The Syrian government has yet to respond, though a key rebel coalition welcomed the announcement. Now, this morning, as I was doing my my daily exercise, I was listening to the BBC Radio 5 Live. Nicky Campbell, who presents the breakfast show for BBC Radio 5 Live, there he is. His propaganda machine and the BBC propaganda machine was in full swing. On the show this morning, he was interviewing Rosemary Hollis from City University, London. He introduced her as an expert and asked her to explain to us what is happening. She read the script perfectly. Hollis used the word regime to describe the Syrian government and said that Russia and Bashar al-Assad's forces were eliminating moderate opposition and civilians, essentially to get to Islamic State. And that is what is being, I suppose, propagated. That is what is being disseminated in the mainstream media. Russia and Assad are killing the good guys, the moderate opposition to the Assad government, while the West is trying to maintain that they are arming and supporting moderate rebels in the region. You've heard all this before. I did have a terrific interview with a woman called Eva Bartlett on the Richie Allen radio show this week. She's a journalist who's travelled extensively in the Middle East, in Gaza and in Syria, particularly Syria recently, and she did a fantastic job of basically dismantling mainstream media propaganda about what's going on in Syria. It's terrible. We covered it extensively on the radio show this week, and we have done in the television show a lot lately, so I'm not going to delve too far into it today. But watch out for it. Watch out for what you're being told by the BBC, by CNN and C-SPAN and Fox about Russia and what Russia is doing, and don't believe it. I'm going to bring Hayden in early because by the skin of our teeth, we came across a story just before we switched on the cameras and the lights here at BVTV Towers today. And that is an amazing story that's buried deep down, way down on the list of stories on bbc.co.uk/news today. And this is a very serious story. And I have no doubt my good friend and colleague David Icke will be all over this story on David Icke Headlines today and in the coming days. The M6 toll motorway is put up for sale. The BBC understands the M6 toll road has been put up for sale for nearly £2 billion. The 27-mile route between Cannock and Coleshill in the West Midlands, it opened in 2003 and it cost £900 million then to build. There's a lot of talk about a debt restructuring process which led to a consortium of 27 banks taking ownership of the loss-making road from Midlands Expressway Limited, which currently or previously owned the road, and they are selling their equity stake. The road loses money each year, apparently, we're told. It is thought the banks want to recover about £1.9 billion from the sale. I'm going to bring Hayden in. This is what's incredible. The latest figures show that 52,735 vehicles used the road per day between October and December last year, compared with 45,800 in 2014. Car drivers are charged £5.50 to use the road, and HGVs are charged £11. My good friend, how the fuck could that road be losing money?
Well, we did some man math.
Man math,
where what we did, we took between the low figure and the high figure, we went for 45,000 vehicles a day. We then threw out the motorcycle, threw out the HGVs, and used the £5.50 charge
cars
as the mean charge, the main price. It still came it's over £80 million a year.
£80 million a year at a very conservative estimate generated by those cars. Now we'll factor in, as you said to me, essential maintenance.
Yeah. I mean, what can that be? Maintenance crews, staff, what, 5 million? I don't know. I'm not
a year.
But even if it's, let's say it's 10 million a year, which seems very extravagant to me, even for a government project, still looking at £70 million a year, roughly, over 10 years. That's 700. This is the nearest any government project has ever gotten to profit.
Yeah.
So why does somebody want 1.9 billion out of it?
Yeah, you said £247,000 a day. Again, it's more like £300,000 a day.
Yeah, we're being very, very conservative because we want to err on the side of caution.
That's right. When these roads began construction, and I know it's exactly the same here as it is in Ireland, they were told to cover the cost of building the road. Yes. People were lied to. It's the same in Ireland. All those roads have been privatised now. They were lied to in terms of when it's paid for, the road will no longer be tolled. The road will no longer be tolled.
I'd love to know, how does 26 miles of road cost £900 million?
How does it cost £900 million?
£900 million. I know. You see, we live
because
in an age where
massive corruption.
Like a lot.
Because of massive corruption. Because the planners at the time, or those in government at the time, obviously gave the building of that road, or the job of building it, to their cronies,
yes,
who vastly inflated the bidding process. Well, 50 million. Well, no, it costs 500 million. It costs 900 million. It costs $1 trillion to build it.
I mean, looking into road building is something that probably should be done, but won't be done.
No.
I dread to think how much the ring road, when they finally finished the ring road around Manchester,
yeah,
how much was spent on that. But is it just me? I mean, I'm sure anyone watching this show, there'll be somebody out there that knows about construction more than we do. Is £900 million reasonable for 26 miles of road?
What will it take in? I know we have different opinions on this. For people to get up off their fat, lazy fucking arses and descend on London and on Westminster Palace to tell these fucking criminal lunatics that their time is up. Imagine selling your stake in something as lucrative as that to a private company. Imagine what £300,000 a day can do for a corporation like the government. Imagine what you can do with that money. You brought in the European Union money. On top of that,
look at the money.
£2 million a day to the European Union. 300,000 quid from that road a day.
We can't afford to have. I mean, this goes through every aspect. I mean, I'm anti-privatisation of certain services.
Yeah,
always have been, always will be.
It's
the diehard.
You know, I'm anti-privatisation of anything.
Yeah, it's like the bus service. You know, we've privatised the bus service, but we still have to finance certain routes. How can that be? How can that be reasonable? Surely, if we'd kept it, we'd have taken the profit from the profitable routes and redistributed it to less profitable routes. And we see this throughout everything, and toll roads are just another example of public money being literally pissed up the wall. I mean, someone did that. 900 million divided by 27.
It's a crime.
How much does that end up per
it's
mile?
It's a crime.
You know?
To give that to a private corporation to run for profit for themselves, when the generation of that money could do untold good for the people of this country. Namely,
and yet, we're now told George Osborne has found a hole in his budget.
Yeah.
Because you do that. You just find them. And he now expects the car drivers to pay for it.
Ironically, through petrol increases.
He wants to increase the price of petrol. Now that it's dropped, he wants to push it back up. And it does beg the question, doesn't it? Well, why are car drivers responsible?
Well, George, that big hole in your budget might be the fucking post office that you sold off. It might be the shares in RBS that you sold off on the cheap. Fucking criminal. We'll get to him and his criminal brother as well a bit later on. Cheers, Hayden. That's some story, that, and it's buried down the bottom of the BBC webpage today, and I guarantee you there won't be much coverage of it in the broadsheet newspapers today in this country. Right. Child abuse. The head of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe, has ordered a review into how the police deal with sex abuse allegations against VIPs. You heard that right. And writing in The Guardian this week, Hogan-Howe, who is the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Hayden's got it up there, he writes and says that public confidence has been affected by the controversy over Operation Midland's investigation into claims that a VIP paedophile ring abused and murdered children in the 1970s and 80s. We got some pictures of two people here, Harvey Proctor and former Field Marshal Lord Bramall. The Metropolitan Police has been attacked, that's Proctor, over its inquiries into him, Proctor, a former MP, and former Field Marshal Lord Bramall, as well as the former Cabinet Minister Lord Britton. There's been all sorts of talk about apologising to Lady Britton for allegations made against him. By Jesus, don't apologise to Lady Britton, whatever you do. Hogan-Howe points out the policy that a victim should always be believed was advocated by the government-backed police inspectorate in 2014, and he warns that there would be an emotional impact on victims if the policy of automatic belief was dropped, and writes, and he did write, and I'm quoting him here, a good investigator would go and test the accuracy of the allegations and the evidence with an open mind, supporting the complainant throughout the process. Have a look at this. This is Hogan-Howe talking to Sky News this week.
Investigating historical child sex abuse is very difficult. We've had quite a moral crisis over the last 18 months, where initially it was said that very senior members of government had lost dossiers, that they themselves were subject to allegations, and now here we are, the very obverse of that criticism, that in fact we weren't ignoring things, we've gone too far. Well, surely it's right that someone should look at that and try and produce some balance, and perhaps give some guidance about how police officers and others approach these difficult historic allegations where the evidence sometimes is lost, where people's memories have faded. And it's so easy to make allegations, but then how do we prove them? Surely I think we all need someone to look at that seriously.
Somebody should look at that, he said there, Hogan-Howe. Now I read from the Guardian article again. The Met announced that retired High Court Judge Richard Henriquez was going to look into the handling of these historic allegations and how they're dealt with from the word go. You know, so a person walks into a police station, sits down, asks to speak to a detective or a police officer and says, you know, I was sexually assaulted by, whether it was a politician, whether it was a minister, whether it was a captain of industry, whether it was somebody who owns a business, whatever. And we're being led to believe, or the mainstream media wants us to believe, that what was going on was that people were saying, I was at a school, I was at a boys' home, I was part of a children's group, and I was abused by Lord Britton. And what they want us to believe is that from there, the police officer was jumping up and exclaiming, let's go and get him, grabbing the pitchfork, grabbing the torch, and running after, or going after the person who was complained against, the alleged abuser, for want of a better word. The Guardian goes on to say Operation Midland's investigation into claims of a VIP paedophile ring abusing and murdering children at the Dolphin Square housing block near Westminster and other sites was prompted by allegations from a complainant known only as Nick. This is another great miss about all of this. is that Nick is the only person to come forward and talk about Dolphin Square and to talk about Westminster. This is nonsense. It isn't only Nick. At one point, a Metropolitan Police officer described Nick's account as credible and true, but the second part of that statement has been withdrawn. No charges have been brought against anybody. I was thinking as I was putting this together yesterday that it was certainly worth hearing from Nick again, and we have that. That's a brilliant meme, by the way, in light of what's coming out on a daily basis. When you think that detectives are coming out every day, and they are, speaking to Exaro News, speaking to other independent news outlets to say that we were prevented from investigating people in the 1970s and 80s. We got to certain stages with investigations, and our superior said to us, stop now. Stop, you don't go any further. We've got these detectives on the record. No charges have been brought. It's certainly worth hearing from Nick again. Let's hear from Nick.
An account of boys picked up by chauffeur-driven cars and taken to meet their abusers.
They created fear that penetrated every part of me.
Nick, not his real name, has overcome decades of fear to give his testimony.
It started with my father. It started with quite severe physical abuse, quickly turning into sexual as well. Within a very short space of time, he had handed me over, or whatever you want to call it, to the group.
What sort of group was it?
A group of men, very powerful people.
Give me some idea of the kinds of people. Military?
Yeah. The other figures from law enforcement, other people from the political establishment.
Nick says it started in 1975 when he was a child and continued until he was a teenager. He remembers the abusers would send their employees to bring him to hotels and private apartments.
We weren't smuggled in under a blanket through the back door. It was done openly. They had no fear at all of being caught. It didn't even cross their mind.
I wish that Nick's voice wasn't disguised, because the voiceover artist does a piss poor job, I think, of emoting, of projecting what it was that Nick went through. It sounds really weird there. I guess you're thinking that as you were listening to it. Nick said they had no fear of being caught. It didn't even cross their mind. We've gone over this before, but we're going over it again in light of the Metropolitan Police humiliating Bernard Hogan Howe. Because I've never seen a policeman being forced to into what I thought was ritual public humiliation the other day, to saying, well, yeah, we might have been a bit overzealous in believing victims and going after people based on the cases against Lord Bramall and the cases against Harvey Proctor. Nick said they had no fear of being caught. At this stage, we could labour the point. We could play the Tim Fortescue clip again. We're not going to do that because we've played it so many times. Fortescue was Chief Whip under Edward Heath. Fortescue said that it was a common thing for MPs to come to the whips to say, we've been caught buggering small boys, we need help. We know this. We know that the Dickens dossier was lost by Leon Britton, the former Home Secretary. This was the dossier containing a list of names of disgusting paedophiles operating in and around Westminster. It was lost, because you lose stuff like that, you know. I won't mention that. And we won't get into Kincora Boys Home in Belfast and Haute de la Garenne in Jersey, where children were taken from those places, supplied to MPs by people like Jimmy Savile to be raped and sometimes murdered. Members of the political class have been and continue to abuse children. This is a fact, not conjecture. It's an absolute fact. We know that. And in some cases, these children are murdered. Is it going on today? Is the murder of children happening today? Hard to prove that, but I suspect it. It's linked to the forced adoption scandal even in this country as well. Jesus Christ, that's a leap, Richie. No, it isn't. It isn't. Go to the YouTube channel for the Richie Allen radio show. Listen to Ian Josephs, Oxford educated solicitor living in France, helping women escape this country before the state takes their children. Listen to that. Michael Shrimpton. We have a picture of Michael there. Michael, to say Michael is eccentric is a bit of an understatement. Speaking on the Richie Allen radio show this week, the barrister and intelligence expert himself warned that the establishment would throw baseless allegations against people who never did anything wrong to discredit the inquiry. It's classic behaviour by the establishment, said Shrimpton. And that's where the Bramall allegations and the Proctor allegations came from. Harvey Proctor was a man about town. He was a man who attended a lot of orgies. He was a swinger. He was a gay man. He hired male prostitutes. Thanks, Aidan, there he is. But he didn't abuse boys or young children. Lord Bramall, famous army guy, but very old now. Liked, old school army guy, tally-ho, into the breach, dear boy type of guy. Didn't do anything wrong. Throw allegations at these guys, they can quickly be torn down. You can use that then to say the whole thing is a witch hunt and a hoax. Hayden, what I read, I'm bringing Hayden in here again. What I take out of what Hogan House said is that allegations against VIPs should be treated with the utmost scepticism, but allegations against anybody else should be preceded along the lines of, well, the victim is telling the truth.
But yeah, I can't argue with that.
There's no argument with that, is there?
It is, I mean, we know there's a protected class. And it's not just political class, it's privileged class, it's people, Savile, working class background.
But connected up to the gills to the establishment, that's right. Therefore he got away with it for decades.
Decades of abuse. And it sounds so obvious, doesn't it? It has to be even across the board. We've all heard the stories, like there was one in Manchester a few years ago of someone who was named as an abuser of children being tortured and murdered.
That's right.
He wasn't an abuser of children, but he wasn't protected.
No, he wasn't
by
protected.
The police. He was
That's
given
right.
up completely. So
that's very important. It's a very important point to
the
make.
The law is there to protect everybody, even the guilty. That's the whole point of the law. It's supposed to be dispassionate and even-handed. But we all know, from the smallest of cases through to something as disgusting and evil as this, the law isn't for everybody. The law is for the rich and the powerful.
Absolutely right.
That's the way it is.
It's good point. Succinctly put there. The idea is that policemen and women were behaving like idiots when victims were describing to them things that happened to them, and that they were then engaged in harassment of people like Bramall and Proctor. It's completely untrue. And while Bramall probably has a right to be pissed off because he was accused of something, his house was raided. Things were seized, things were looked at. They went away to look at it. It took quite a bit of time. We've heard Paul Gambaccini, the famous DJ, complain about this as well. And I'm admitting that if I was in their position, I would complain about it too. But that's the way these things work. We have to accept that. These things aren't decided in a day or a day and a half. It takes time to investigate these allegations and these accusations. So the police took months in the case of Bramall to come to the conclusion that there was nothing there. Well, go and get fucked, Lord Bramall. It's obviously unpleasant to be accused of these things. And it's unpleasant to have to wait for 7 or 8 months to find out that they're not going to take it any further. But just get on with it. They've come out and they've said there's nothing in it. Sorry about any inconvenience there, Lord Bramall. There's nothing in the allegations. We're sorry. Job done. Move on. But to use that as the basis for a claim that the whole thing is a witch hunt is disgusting. To try and paint a picture that able and clever men and women working as detectives, CID, at the Metropolitan Police are idiots is unacceptable. And that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to bury it, and ultimately what they want is they want victims to stop coming forward. And I tell you what, Hayden, this is going to drive you and anybody watching this totally fucking mad. With all the evidence that the Metropolitan Police hold on politicians, retired and active, all the complaints they have had from victims about politicians retired and active, nobody has been charged, right? Nobody, not a single charge. This is going to blow your fucking minds. In December 2014, Mark Pearson was walking through Waterloo Underground Station in London. I've walked through it many times myself. When he passed and might have brushed against a woman who turned out to be a well-known actress. She accused him of a sexual assault. She accused him of seriously sexually assaulting her and of hitting her on the shoulder. The case went to trial in months. There were no witnesses. There was no forensic evidence. It took the jury 90 minutes to acquit him. Mark Pearson was speaking to Adrian Childs on BBC Radio 5 Live this week, and he described the case as preposterous. Look at this.
Why did the CPS think they could secure a
I
conviction?
would very much like to know that, and they haven't told us. They haven't said why they continued to pursue the case even after we had an expert look at the CCTV and conclude that I couldn't possibly have done what she said.
And this is because it establishes you'd gone past her in half a second. I think you had a newspaper in one hand and
in the hand that I was supposed to have assaulted her with.
Right. It's just bizarre. I mean,
It's preposterous.
When you talk to your partner about it, do you find that people look at you and think, well, you kind of would say that, wouldn't you? You know, or was it the story so preposterous nobody could ever...
Anyone who's seen the CCTV images knows that I couldn't possibly have done it. I would have had to have leaned backwards while walking forwards, crouched towards the ground, to put my hand up her skirt and do what she said. Then also hit her in the shoulder, all in half a second.
She can't be named for legal reasons. She made an allegation against a private citizen, a man, that he stuck his hand up her fucking skirt and fondled her vagina. She lied through her teeth. Not to mention the speed with which this got to court. What the hell is going on there? She cannot be named. Let's talk about the velocity at which this got in front of a judge.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the velocity of the alleged attack.
Have you seen that? Were you watching
past her. In that time, he managed to hit her on the shoulder, allegedly. And
you hold hand up the skirt
there.
there.
Up the skirt, have a good rummage about, remove hand, whilst always appearing to be holding, obviously fake hand.
Yeah.
And off he went.
This is a very famous actress, by the way.
Very famous actress who will
of
not
stage
be named.
and screen. We're not going to name her. We're not scared of being in contempt of court. I'll tell you why we're not going to name her for two reasons. One, I don't know who she is. because
that's a very good reason.
That's a good reason, number one. You know, Hayden, yesterday when I was researching this yesterday, I said, because we can find out in 2 seconds who she is. It's very easy. Yeah. Find out who she is. And then I went, no. I just don't. It's just absolutely incredible.
It wouldn't.
It adds nothing to the story.
It would distract from what is really wrong here. Clearly bullshit.
Yeah.
The police will have had full access to that CCTV within a day or so. They'd have watched it. Oh, let's say it took them 3-4 days to find. Oh, there he is. Yeah, it's nonsense. But still, the DPS.
The Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP,
DPP. I've looked at this and gone, we should probably do this.
Yeah.
And then it's up.
And I know damn well, and this is where you gotta sympathise with the police. And I've done a little bit of looking into this yesterday, and I can't name names, but I have it on good authority that the investigating officers basically said this was a load of bollocks.
No, it works both ways.
And the DPP went, no, we'll proceed.
Yeah, it's not up to the police.
Exactly.
It's never up to the police.
Because people are thinking, Richie's contradicting himself now. Because a minute ago, he talked about Bernard Hogan House saying, we shouldn't believe the victims all the time.
That's a different level of police.
Exactly. Different thing entirely. The police had nothing to do with the prosecution of this guy Pearson.
Not only that, let's remember, the police as an organisation becomes more politicised as you get to the top.
Yeah.
It works two ways. Number one, the investigators looking into this would have known it was a bullshit case.
From the word go.
But they don't get a say in it.
Don't get a say in it, no.
There's police that categorically know, and I know this from personal conversations with officers in the past, about things that are occurring.
Do you know who the Director of Public Prosecutions
that will not get picked up?
Exactly, Hayden. Do you know who the DPP is? Alison Saunders. She's the woman who decided not to proceed against Greville Janner.
That's funny old world, isn't it?
There's a word beginning with C. We'll never use it, but not on this channel or not on the radio show. This is a woman who had dozens and dozens of victims coming forward against Greville Janner. No, we won't proceed with that. Woman says that she got sexually assaulted in record fucking time
By an
in
X-Man.
public.
Clearly an X-Man, one of the member of the bleeding X-Men here.
By one of the X-Men. Yes, we shall proceed with that, and we shall waste, what would you reckon, Hayden? Couple of £1 million probably on barristers.
Oh, well and truly.
Couple of $1 million,
yeah. They'll have made sure that they've enjoyed the benefits of such a case.
And Lord Creepy Bastard Paedophile Janner, well, we won't bring charges against it. Do you know we were going to do something else and then take a break? Do you want to take a break now?
Let's do that.
Let's take a break. Now, we're going to have a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with more. Stay with the Richie Allen Show on BVTV.
Attention small business owner, when is a box more than just a box? No! Oh no, that's just weird. A box is more than just a box when it can give you a couple of extra hours in bed, or at the very least some time to do something more fun and or productive than bookkeeping. Just bang all your paperwork in a box and we'll take care of the rest. Accounts Direct. Accountants on your side.
This is the Richie Allen television show in association with DavidIke.com and BeyondVision.tv for the week ending Friday the 12th. Is it? I think it's the 12th. It is the 12th, Aidan. Yeah, for the week ending Friday the 12th of February 2016. Please check out LiveLeak.com, one of the world's most important websites. That is an absolute fact, by the way. There is information on there. There are videos on there being shared by people and being put up there by people from Syria, from Libya, from Nigeria, all these places, the hotbeds, Yemen, where all this stuff is going on. Uncensored opinions from people. It is absolutely vital. David Icke is on tour through 2016 and 2017. All the details are at davidicke.com. Check out davidicke.com/headlines as well. He's touring all over the world. A fantastic presentation, a 10-hour presentation. He will be in this great city in Manchester early next year. I think it's January, or is it February? I think it's January actually next year. All the details are on davidicke.com, as well as where to buy Phantom Selfie's brand new book, which is absolutely terrific. I've just finished reading it for the second time. Thanks to David for all the support of the independent media in general and for this programme. The Live Leak television show, of course, airs every Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT. It is terrific. It is absolutely unique. There's nothing like it. Check it out every Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT. William Ragg, and we might lose our rags talking about this asshole. Look at the smug head on this fucker after he won the election in Stockport. The words Tory and bastard, they fit so nice and neatly together, don't they? They should be together in the dictionary. He's a backbencher. Nobody knows who he is or gives a fuck about him. Nobody. But we've got a story from the London Standard, which I think we might be able to link to here, where he says, William Ragg, that he's part of the boomerang generation. He can't afford to get a mortgage on his basic salary of £74,000 a year. That's his salary for being an MP, a Member of Parliament. Doesn't include his expenses, and it doesn't include money that he would be paid for sitting on various committees. 74 grand is not enough. I've gone home to mummy and daddy. I've got no money for a deposit. We've got a clip of the bastard. Have a look. Bastard.
1 in 4 young adults up to the age of 34 having to live with mum and dad still. How would you feel being in that position?
Well, ironically enough, I have been part of that boomerang generation myself.
Really? Now?
Currently I am, but in a few years, hopefully I would have saved enough for a deposit so I can
So you know what
move
it's
out.
like?
I know exactly what it's like. I have complete empathy with people in that position. And there's no getting away from the fact we face a severe challenge in housing in this country.
Is it wage related, can I ask you, as an MP?
Certainly, no, it's not wage related, but even to save the deposit, it will take a number of years. But that being that.
And presumably you have other friends in a similar position?
Yeah, very much so. We're the generation who went to AT University, came back, got our first jobs, then we might have moved out, rented for a time and spent a fortune on rent. When I think about how much I spent on rent in my flat I used to have, and think how much I could perhaps save for a deposit for a mortgage, it makes me think, well, did I make the right decision then? But I chose to rent at that time. So there's no getting away from the fact that we do have a difficult situation.
We have a difficult situation, he said. Some more difficult than others. Record numbers of people in Manchester and in Stockport, where this fucker is from, are attending food banks on a daily basis. Working people. People who can't make ends meet because their in-work benefits have been slashed by that bastard's government. He's full of shit, by the way. He earns 3 times the national wage, not including expenses. Of course he can claim expenses to rent in London if he wants to. And at a time when lenders are offering mortgages of 4 times people's annual salaries, especially people earning over £50,000 a year, this fucker earns £74,000 a year, he could easily buy a home in Stockport. And £280,000 in Stockport gets you a very nice 3 or 4 bedroomed home. And then he could rent in London with his expenses. So he's a liar and he's a fucking disgrace. Complaining that you have to move home, back home on a salary like that. This dickhead won't be re-elected in 2020. I tell you what, Hayden Hewitt and myself are coming to Stockport to lay waste to the fucking town if you send him back to Westminster in 2020. Fuck's sake.
Sorry, Richie. Could I just interject there?
You're not coming with me. I'm speaking for myself.
Well, no, just how would anyone know?
Unbelievable, huh?
We Stockport.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stockport.
That is lousy, that. I know. I have a lot of radio listeners in Stockport, by the way. You know what, Hayden? Where did it get the arrogance and the balls to go on television and complain about earning 3 times the national wage? They're sick, these
Richie,
people.
I can't begin to explain how I felt about that clip when I first saw it.
When you first saw it, yeah.
It's the wrong time of day and the wrong show for me to give voice to what I think about this man.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't get into it on the Live League show last night.
Well, it was a different sort of show last night. But if
there's plenty of time.
If opportunity should arise, I'm sure I will have words about Mr. Ag either on the Live League show or the upcoming radio show. So
absolutely, mate. I just can't believe it. Guess who just breezed back into town? Yanis Varoufakis, the treacherous former LBJ School of Economics professor who, along with Alexis Tsipras, raped the Greek people into believing that they were the finance minister and the prime minister that was going to deliver the Greeks from the brutal hardship of austerity. He was going to stand up to the Troika. He was going to stand up to Greek debts, which he said were illegal. And along with Tsipras, they were going to reclaim the sovereignty of that great old country. Did he fuck? What he did, along with Tsipras, was he encouraged the Greeks, as we remember, to reject the Troika's terms in last year's infamous referendum. You remember this, by the way. The European Union presented a bailout with terms. Tsipras and Varoufakis said to the Greek people, "This will rape us. Say no to it." The Greek people went, "Good idea. We will vote no to it." And they turned up in their droves and they voted no. What happened then when the Greek people voted no? I'll tell you what happened. Varoufakis resigned. He fucked off. And when he fucked off, he said it's because I'm not getting on well with my European Union financial counterparts. They don't seem to like me very much. The negotiations are very fractious. So I'll fuck off. When he fucked off, Tsipras accepted the terms. Accepted the terms of the bailout. Further condemning the Greek people to unbelievable misery. What did Varoufakis do then? Well, he started dressing like his good pal Julian Assange. Started turning up on so-called left-wing television and radio stations around the world, getting paid a lot of money to talk about the European Union project. Yeah. The fucker even had the temerity to criticise Alexis Tsipras for signing a deal after he'd fucked off. You couldn't make any of this up. This isn't conjecture. Every single word of what I've just told you is an absolute truism. It's a fact. The LBJ School of Economics. So he's got a new political movement now called DM25. It's over to RT. Have a look.
So this is what DM is about. A broad coalition of Democrats, radical Democrats, left-wing Democrats, social Democrats, green Democrats, liberal Democrats. The purpose of which is to put the demos back into democracy against the European Union establishment that sees people power as a threat to its authority. Our immediate priority is full transparency in decision-making. A few rays of light are capable of piercing the darkness inside the rooms in Brussels and in Frankfurt where important decisions are made for everyone. Working for the people, not against the people, working for the people with their informed consent would be a wonderful change for the European Union staff currently unable to do so, constrained as they are within an authoritarian, pseudo-technocratic straitjacket. With a majority of Europeans whose instinct, even if they are not here tonight, even if they don't care about our kind of politics, nevertheless, whose instinct is telling them that there is something rotten in the European Union.
What Lurch just told you there, what he spouted, was a whole load of bullshit slogans that means absolutely nothing, but are designed to fool the perplexed. More and more people into believe. By the way, people who are living on the margins, people with fuck all, that are desperate for hope, are desperate for a leader. The M25 is designed to convince you that he's the answer. His brand of phony socialism. He's pro-European, this guy. He's a Rothschild Zionist. He is a future World fucking Bank con man. Wait till I tell you. Wait for 6 months or a year and see this guy on the board of the World Bank, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. As some of our American friends will tell you. This, by the way, this week the same guy congratulated Angela Merkel on letting in over 1 million migrants into Germany. You see where I'm coming from here with Yanis Varoufakis? Him and his buddy Assange, that the left want to believe are saviours. These fucking people are given to you by the same establishment that gives you Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. They're the same people. Ignore facts if you want. The guy was a senior lecturer at the Lyndon Baines Johnson School of Economics. He's a Keynesian. He's an advocate of the policies of Maynard Keynes. People will fall for it. They will flock to him and forget what he did to the Greeks, who are so fucked they don't know whether they're coming or going from one week to the next. Oh Christ. Hayden, we come to it now. George Osborne's psychiatrist brother has been struck off after a 2-year relationship with a vulnerable patient he had been treating for anxiety and depression. She's known as Patient A. She deserves anonymity. I have no doubt about that. A medical tribunal found that the behaviour of Adam Osborne was profoundly unacceptable and it ruled that his fitness to practice was impaired by reason of misconduct. Sounds lovely and flurry, that language. I'll tell you what the language really means in a minute. He ended the relationship last February with Patient A while she was suicidal and in a desperately serious psychological condition. Nigel Callaghan, the chairman of the medical tribunal, ruled on Thursday that Osborne had showed a blatant disregard for the fundamental tenets of the medical profession and he should be struck off the medical register. His behaviour was fundamentally incompatible with the medical profession and there was a risk that he would reoffend, said Callaghan. Patient A was under Osborne's care at a private medical practice in London between 2011 and late 2014. When Patient A made a complaint to the General Medical Council, Osborne begged her to retract it, telling her in threatening emails over a 10-day period that it would destroy his family, and he added, "I will make you pay." to a suicidal woman with serious mental problems. Hayden, he's a fucking rapist. He should be in jail on a life tariff. Because a woman in that situation cannot give informed consent.
Impossible.
Why is he not facing charges? Why have the Metropolitan Police not arrested him? They might say, give us a chance, Richie. It's only been a day, but they've had plenty of fucking time. This has been going on this tribunal for weeks.
Oh, come on. They got that other guy up in court after a couple of months.
Couple of days.
Nothing.
The legend can rape a woman like that.
The superhero.
That's horribly vulgar. I know it is. I'm not doing it to shock. But a guy did that. He didn't do that. Allegedly, bang, you're in court, bang. Jury says, this is bollocks, he's out of there. Millions.
I guess it helps if your brother's a senior member of government.
Unbelievable. He's a rapist. George Osborne's brother is a rapist. He's a disgusting man who threatened her with, I will make you pay. What does that say? Jesus Christ. We have to leave that in, don't we?
Yeah.
Somebody didn't put his phone on silent. What a horrendous example. If anybody needed to see the difference between these people and the rest of us, how this has been dealt with. Medical counsel, you're struck off, using flowery language like incompatible with accepted care. The guy's a rapist. This is not a related story, but it's an interesting story. David Cameron's mother, Mary, interestingly enough, a former magistrate, has been signing petitions against cuts to children's services in this country. I understand Cameron's brother, who's also a judge, has also been complaining and over the years has stood up against and complained about policies designed to destroy the poor. So when you look at the Osborne families and the Cameron families, there's only one place for them, really, isn't there? And that's... We've got a picture, haven't we? The Jeremy fucking Kyle show. I saw that today and I couldn't resist it. There's actually an article. No, there isn't an article. I didn't send you an article. I should have sent you an article about the level at with which Mary Cameron, David Cameron's mother, has been complaining about the policies of the Conservative government. We're rapidly running out of time. So we're going to move on to a story that we're going to finish with because it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of serious because it's on the same theme of us and them. A Google boss has prompted fury from members of Parliament after suggesting that he doesn't know how much he gets paid. There he is there. Top brass from the internet giant today faced a parliamentary inquisition. Yesterday faced a parliamentary inquisition over its tax affairs after it recently agreed to a £130 million settlement, significantly less than many think it should be paying when it has £5 billion worth of sales in Britain alone. Google says it abides by the system in place, but that the rules are over-complicated. Take a look at this BBC clip of the boss of Google Europe being grilled by an MP about what he earns himself. This is incredibly telling. Have a look.
Do you really understand the anger, Mr. Britton? What do you get paid, Mr. Britton?
If that's relevant, I'll happily disclose that to the committee. What I understand is...
No, I'm asking you what you get paid.
I'll happily disclose that if that's a relevant matter for the committee in private.
I'm asking you, so it's a relevant matter. Could you tell me what you get paid, please, Mr. Britton?
I don't have the figure, but I'll happily provide it to the
You
committee
don't know
afterwards.
what you get paid, Mr. Britton?
Chair, let me...
I mean, perhaps you could give us a ballpark of what you get paid. Forget the share options, then. What's your basic salary?
It's a salary. I don't have the figure, but I'll provide the figure privately if it's relevant to the committee to understand my salary.
That was Mark Britton there refusing to answer under oath a question in a parliamentary committee as to what it is he earns. He can't tell his salary, Hayden, presumably because it's so small that he's having to boomerang back to live with his mother and father. Do you know what it is he earns a year? I found out.
Go on.
Amazingly, this is symbiosis, this is symmetry. 130 million quid a year.
Is that all? No wonder he can't remember.
Isn't that incredible?
He's probably ashamed.
Should be ashamed of himself.
Well, I mean, No, he should earn whatever you can earn.
Oh, earn whatever you can earn, yeah.
But when your company's shafting the tax and you sat there like a smug prick, I can't, I don't, I will reveal, but I'd rather not. Why didn't one of the MPs there go, actually, mate, I can help you?
That's right. Because he reached for his own phone at one stage because he was actually completely flustered. As you quite rightly said, another MP could have just done that. Well, you actually earn 130 million quid a year.
So he earns 130 million pounds a year?
For doing nothing, yeah.
130 million pounds a year?
That's the figure I was given, yeah.
Why wouldn't you retire after 1 year? Because he hasn't paid tax.
Because he hasn't paid any tax on it.
Well, actually, I should say I don't know what he's paid in tax personally, but 130 million, that'd do, wouldn't it, Richie?
What will it take, mate, for the stampede to Westminster Palace? That's it for the programme. Thanks for your contributions. I really appreciate it. That was this week's Richie Allen television show in association with davidicke.com/headlines. I've been Richie Allen. Thanks for watching us. We will see you again real soon. Stay with the Richie Allen radio show. Go to richieallen.co.uk. We'll see you next week. Bye for now. Bye now.